Hey guys, how are you? I hope that you're okay. I hope that you are healthy, and I hope that you are doing something that you enjoy. Today we are going to continue taking important facts. Something that I forgot to tell you is that I don't mind if you do your important facts in cursive or in print. That's not really relevant as much as you're taking your facts. Remember that we're taking them in our notebook. So if you just want to continue writing them without a date, you can. Today is Wednesday. Yep, today is Wednesday. Oh, wait. No, today is not Wednesday. Is it? Yeah, sorry. My plan gets mixed. Today is Wednesday, and we are going to continue taking important facts from page 28. Remember that we're trying to summarize big paragraphs into smaller and more understanding information using our own words. So when we get the opportunity to talk about those topics, we're not going to have any problem. Remember that this is a topic that is going to help you in the future, because if you ever talk to someone in an airport or in a place where you go visit out of Honduras, you're not going to be relying all the time in a book. You're going to be fluent, and people is going to say, wow, are you really from Honduras? Because your English is amazing. So this is the whole purpose of this. So you can either write today is Wednesday the 18th. Today is Wednesday, November 18th, 2020, or you just can write continue, and we continue from page 28 because we finished 27 yesterday. Okay, let's do it. Let's continue reading. Remember, we're reading and writing the important facts. A trailer was near the northern edge of the stacks. We were talking about the place where he lives, remember? Which ran up to a crumbling highway overpass. From a vantage point at the laundry room window, I could see a thin stream of electric vehicles crawling along the cracked asphalt, carrying goods and workers into the city. As I started out at the green skyline, bright slivers of the sun peeked over the horizon, watching it rise. I performed a mental ritual. Whenever I saw the sun, I reminded myself that I was looking at a star, one of over 100 billion stars in our galaxy, a galaxy that was just one of billions of other galaxies in the observable universe. This helped me keep things in perspective. I started doing it after watching a science program for the early 20s called Cosmos. So he's thinking about the universe and how amazing that he is looking at a star, when in reality what he is looking at the sun. But he realizes that the sun being a star is amazing because there's a million more, so maybe there's more life or mysteries that he doesn't really know. I slipped out of the window as quietly as possible and, clutching the bottom of the window frame, slid down the cold surface of the trailer's metal siding. The steel platform in which the trailer rested was only slightly wider and longer than the trailer itself, leaving a ledge about 1.5 feet wide all the way around. I carefully lowered myself until my feet rested on this ledge. He was in the very edge. He could fall down. And he's very high. Then I reached up to close the window behind me. I grabbed hold of a rope I strung there at a waist level to serve me as a handful and began sidestep along the side of the corner of the platform. From there I was able to descend the ladder-like frame of the scaffolding. I almost always took this route when leaving or returning to my aunt's trailer. A rickety metal staircase was bolted to the side of the stack, but it shook and knocked against the scaffolding. I think it's a scaffolding. So I couldn't use it without announcing my presence. Bad news in the stacks. It was best to avoid being heard or seen. Whenever possible, there were often dangerous and desperate people about the sort who would rob you, rape you, have sexual intercourse without your permission, and then sell your organs on the black market. So because this people is so poor, he tried to escape his aunt's house without nobody listening to him, because he could be kidnapped and killed, or the organs from his body would be taken off and they would be sold. Because in this place, people is mega poor, is the poorest. So what we can write from, that's a lot. From page 28, you can write page 28. So what do we know about it? Wade lives in a very dangerous place. And because it's so dangerous, he has to escape and sneak out his aunt's house very carefully. Because otherwise, bad people that lives around him could kidnap him and sell his parts or sell him as a whole person. So he's just trying to be careful because where he lives is horrendous. And then the last two paragraphs that represent page 28. There are two more small paragraphs. Then that's going to be another small important fact. Descending the network of metal girders has always reminded me of old platform video games like Donkey Kong or Burger Time. I seized upon this idea for a few years earlier when I coded my first Atari 2000 game, a Gunter rite of passage, like a Jedi wielding his first lightsaber. It was a pitiful rip-off called The Stacks, where you had to navigate through a vertical maze of trailers, collecting junk computers, snagging food voucher power-ups, and avoiding meth addicts and pedophiles on your way to school. So, yes, there was a lot of people that would hurt Wade, but he was imagining that his life was a game, and all the bad people in the world would be the monsters, and he would just have to avoid them. My game was a lot more fun than the real thing. As I climbed down, I paused next to the Airstream trailer 3 units below ours, where my friend Mrs. Gilmore lived. She was a sweet old lady in her mid-70s, and she always seemed to get rid of ridiculously early. I peeked in her window and saw her shuffling around in her kitchen making breakfast. So what we can write, because this is very small, is page 28. Again, you have to write the name of the page so you remember where the information is coming, and you can write Wade lives in a very dangerous place that is so negative that he has to imagine that he lives in a game, in a video game. And all the bad things that happen in his world are the challenges, and then he moves around them constantly because his reality is really, really sad. But there are good people in the world. People like Mrs. Gilmore, that is Wade's friend. See? 2 paragraphs into something very small. Let's continue. Page 29. Wait, 28. Yeah, 28, 29. She spotted me after a few seconds and her eyes lit up. Wade, she said, cracking open her window. Good morning, my dear boy. Good morning, Mrs. G, I said. I hope I didn't startle you. Not at all, she said. She pulled her robe tight against the draft coming in the window. It's freezing out here. Why don't you come in and have some breakfast? I got some soy bacon, and these powdered eggs aren't too bad if you put enough salt on them. So she was eating soy bacon, and bacon is made from pigs, and the eggs are in a powder. She opened a powder from a bottle, and they would be the eggs. Thanks, but I can't this morning, Mrs. G. I have to get to school. All right, rain check then. That means I'll see you later. She blew me a kiss and started to close the window. Try to not break your neck climbing around out there, okay, Spider-Man? Will do. See you later, Mrs. G. I waved goodbye to her and continued my descent. So from all that, you can write another important fact from page 29. I think that we're going to do 3 and 29 because I see a lot of divisions between the paragraphs. So you can write in there, page 29, Wade gets invited to eat with Mrs. G, but he has to go to school and refuses to eat powdered eggs and soy bacon. Let's continue. Mrs. Gilmore was a total sweetheart. She let me crash on her couch when I needed to, although it was hard for me to sleep there because of all her cats. She's just like me. She has a lot of cats. Mrs. G was super religious and spent most of her time in the oasis sitting in the congregation of one of those big online mega churches, singing hymns, listening to sermons, and taking virtual tours of the Holy Land. I fixed her ancient oasis console whenever it went on the fritz, and in return, she answered my endless questions about what it had been like for her to grow up during the 1980s. I grew up kind of like I grew up in the era. In the end, she knew the coolest bits of 80s trivia, stuff you couldn't learn from books or movies. She was always praying for me too, trying the hardest to save my soul. I have never had the heart to tell her that I thought organized religion was a total crock. It was a pleasant fantasy that gave her hope and kept her going, which was exactly what the hunt was for me. To quote the almanac, people who live in glass houses should shut the up. Again, another bad word. I'm so sorry, guys. But you know what's the good of this? That you can get accustomed to see the bad words that you should not see. And someone ever insults you and they say, you're like, God bless you. Because if it's something that you're accustomed to, you're not going to be as shocked as other people would because they're being insulted. So we can write from the paragraph, Mrs. Gilmore is very religious and constantly helps Wade, but she's always in the virtual church and she has the best ideas from the 80s culture. Next, last part of page 29. Okay. When I reached the bottom level, I jumped off the scaffold and dropped the few remaining feet to the ground. My rubber boots crunched into the slush and frozen mud. It's very, very cold. It was still pretty dark down here, so I took out my flashlight and headed east, waving my way through the dark maze, doing my best to remain unseen while being careful to avoid tripping over a shopping cart, engine block, or one or the other pieces of junk littered the narrow alleys between the stacks. I rarely saw anyone out at this time of the morning. The commuter shuttles ran only a few times a day, so the residents lucky enough to have a job would already be waiting at the bus stop. Oh my God, shush! I'm sorry. She wants to go out. I'm sorry. She's very noisy. So in the last part of page 29, you can write in there that he's trying to be careful because he lives in a very dangerous area. But also some people can go work because there are buses in there. So that could be a good analogy on it. Give me a second. I threw a piece of paper at her. I hope she's quiet now. Okay. So we finally made it to page 30. So, yeah, we can do it. Okay, page 30. Oh, wait. Page 29, we did the last part? Yeah, people works, right? Okay. Page 29, page 30. Right in there, page 30, and then write your important fact. Remember that I'm not going to give you the whole important facts because then I would give you my opinion. You have to listen to what I say, see what is written, and write your important fact on your own. Most of them work as day laborers in the giant factory farms that surrounded the city, the people around Wade. After walking about half a mile, I reached a giant mound of old carts and trucks piled haphazardly along the stacks. Eastern perimeters decades ago, the cranes were cleared to park as many abandoned vehicles as possible to make room for even more stacks, and they dumped them into huge piles like this one all around the settlement's perimeter. Many of them were nearly as tall as the stacks themselves, so they get rid of cars and they just put them on stacks. But I don't think that's really relevant. That's where he lives. That's the only thing that I can tell you that is relevant. So an important fact from that thing is that he lives in an abandoned cars park. Okay? So write it, page 29, where he lives. You can stop the video. I walked to the edge of the pile, and after a quick glance around to make sure I wasn't being watched or followed, I turned sideways to squeeze through a gap between two crushed cars. From there, I clambered and sidestepped my way farther and farther into the ramshackle mountain of twisted metal, until I reached a small open space at the rear of a buried cargo van. Only the rear third of the van was visible. The rest was concealed by the other vehicles stacked on around. The overturned pickup trucks lay across the van roof at different angles, but most of their weight was supported by the cars stacked on either side, creating a kind of protective arc that prevented the van from being crushed by the mountains of vehicles piled above. So the only thing that I can tell you about this paragraph is that he was living in a car that it was hidden under a lot of cars, so he could escape, and because obviously he had important things in there like the computer, he wouldn't want to risk it by getting thieves. So he was kind of like living inside a forest of cars, okay? Because that's something very normal for them. 2 more paragraphs. Now, these 2 more paragraphs, you're going to read them by yourself and you are going to assess them. You are going to assess what these paragraphs are about. It's only 2 paragraphs from page 30, and you're going to write your own opinion on them. Remember that all these important facts should be written in your notebook, because eventually you're going to have to make a video about it. I hope that you are okay. I hope that you are safe. Always hoping that we are going to see each other very soon, but we're gonna be safe, okay? So I hope that you're okay. I hope you're having a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow. Bye, guys.